right, Medicare bill. I am so sorry for our technical difficulties this morning. Hopefully, this will be better, but I don't want you to think we missed anything. So we're going to kind of start from the top again. That way, you can all hear Miss Norma's amazing story, how she went from pharmacist to Medicarian. I still think you should brand yourself as a Medicare pharmacist, Norma. I don't know if you've
Well,
got a
I
brand
mean,
yet, but I like it.
I do use because my email, of course, is your Medicare pharmacist. So um, I don't know. People do tend to call me that or doc. You know.
I can already see the little cartoon character and her little farm. This is
I'll
my
break
creative
out
side
my
coming
lab
out. I can
coat.
totally see it.
I could do that. I still have my
So,
lab coat.
anyways, we were saying that Norma has gone from pharmacist to Medicare agent. She's made that jump and she has created a course to help all of us better understand medications, how to save our clients money, and things like that. And she's been popping up here, there, and yonder everywhere on me. And I bought her course and I think it's fantastic. And I'm like, I got to find out more about this lady because her. And if you know me, you know I don't like not knowing people because I'm a blue and I got to know everybody. So we're here to get to know Norma, find out more about her, her story, how she got here, and ultimately how she wants to help all of us be better agents for our people. So, Norma, would you please reintroduce yourself since Dawn is telling us this is much better?
Yes. Hopefully this is better. And if somebody can tell us, I think it was coming from my technology. It didn't like the platform I was using. So hopefully this is better. But again, like Rebecca had said, my name is Norma Johnson. I have 20 years experience with CVS Pharmacy. That is where I came from. I had a career that I absolutely loved for a very long time. It just I was able to help seniors, and that's really what it was all about. I loved being able to help seniors afford their medications, and of course, we know with Medicare that's tricky. So I try to give you snidbits because of course I could talk forever, and we don't want to be here all afternoon. But I ended up, as retail has it, if you've been into a retail pharmacy at all lately, you know how extremely busy they are. It's not busy because they're busy. We're used to doing the scripts. The problem is that pharmacy is being squeezed to the point that they just keep cutting hours, cutting hours, cutting hours. They're not given the staff that's needed in order to actually get the job done. But yet, they keep giving new things to do. We have to do COVID shots, COVID tests, flu shots. You name it, we're given a shot for it. But they don't give you staff. So you literally have a pharmacist. Well, you have one pharmacist in that family, that pharmacy. The rest are techs. So, it puts a lot on the pharmacist. So over time, I became nothing but a robot, and I decided I'd had enough. But I didn't know what else I was going to do. So I ended up having a conversation with somebody, ironically, that was in Medicare. To be honest with you, even as a pharmacist, I had no idea there were agents out there. I didn't know. I also thought I knew something about Medicare. I didn't know jack. So trust me when I say pharmacists have no idea of anything going on with Medicare. We don't know.
Wait. Can we have that in a quote that we can have signed and take to every pharmacy and doctor place?
They have truly, and I thought I knew something. I literally thought I knew something. Boy, that was an eye opener. Yeah, we don't know anything in the pharmacy world. We know a very minute amount. So of course, in 2020, I made the decision to leave retail pharmacy. I left after all those years, and it was tough. I left a very high six-figure income, and I went from that to nothing overnight. That was not easy to do. Thank goodness I had some savings, but And making that jump, I realized this is my passion. This is the perfect fit for me as a person, because now I have all the time in the world for seniors. If I want to spend 30 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, it's my choice. I get to sit with them all day if I want to. And be able to be helpful in ways that I've never even dreamed of. So it's definitely my passion. I'm very passionate about it. And I knew, because I was a pharmacist, I looked at drug plans and things different than I think everybody else does. And in having conversations with people, I could see that. And so this all started in springtime. I like designing my own presentations. I do educational presentations, and I have never given a Medicare 101 yet. I mean, I just haven't. So, I like to design my own. And I designed one called Tips to Find Savings on Prescription Drugs, as a way to educate clients and potential clients, people I was doing seminars with, on how to look for savings. And it was amazing how many people. I have a 55 plus community that I do a lot of presentations in. I had given other presentations in the past, and I'd always had 40, 45 people RSVP, and they all would show up. Literally, the max in the room that I use at that location is 85. I put this presentation out there. They put it on their website. 85 people. We had a max of 85 people. There was a wait list for people to get into that seminar, but they only had 85 people allowed in that room. 85 people showed up, and guess what? I didn't buy food. I purposely did not buy food, because I wanted to see how many could the title get in that room. And we saw it. So of course I teach on a lot of different things. It's not it's a multi-prong conversation. So I wish we could share the screen. I would actually show y'all the presentation if you haven't seen it yet. After AEP, I will start doing some more Zooms, because right now we're too busy to do the presentation for the most part. Some people are given it already during AEP, but they started in September when I first set this thing off. My timing was not the
Well,
best.
I have the presentation because I bought your course.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, I have my first pharmacy savings class, we'll call it, scheduled. Um, it's right after Thanksgiving, at our local senior center. I was telling about it when I was there, doing a Medicare 101. And they were like, oh my gosh, yes, we need this too. And I was like, well, I'm just learning about it. I was honest with them because I just got your course. I'm like, well, I'm just learning it. So give me a little bit to kind of figure this out, and then we'll do it for sure. So we have it on the schedule. It's given me like 30 days to actually dig into it and really kind of get it down. So I'm excited to see how many people we get in the room for that, because that senior center struggles a little bit, not only for just events, but in general. They are trying desperately to get new blood in their door.
Yeah.
They want to grow, they want to help more people. So they're really hoping that this might get new blood, because honestly, from what I've seen too, Norma, this isn't just a senior problem,
Oh,
right?
it's
There are beds on there that are not just for seniors or for anybody disabled, the volunteer people, things like that.
people
And
with
so
no
we're not highlighting it as a senior event. It's just a savings on your drug event.
Yeah, and
And we're curious to
yeah.
see if we can get more people in there to ultimately help thrive that senior center as well. Have you
Mhm.
seen that in your meetings, younger people coming in?
Well, I haven't done it yet at a senior center. I have been so busy just with when I did that presentation, it ended up triggering, and this wasn't even AEP, right? This was in springtime. That ended up triggering a lot of, I found new to 65 people I didn't know about in that community. Um, and I've ended up helping some family of family. People would say, hey, I have a mom. I helped a woman in Illinois. She's not my client, but one of the family member, her son lives in this community. His mom lives in Chicago, and she needed help. And so, of course, I started conversing. She contacted me. I started conversing with her and got her set up with patient assistance for 2 of her meds. So it's like she's not even my client. I'm willing to help anybody, you know. So, but it is definitely a title that will draw people in. And you're right, it's not a Medicare. It's technically not. I sent it up. Premier is my FMO, and I sent it up to their compliance department just to clear it because I wanted to say, okay, does this need to be cleared by CMS or does it not? They shot it back to me and they said, no, it's not considered a Medicare a presentation, therefore it doesn't need to be cleared. It's like awesome, so you don't even have to report this thing. Which is nice because it's like then you don't have to worry about secret shoppers and all the craziness that happens with that, and it allows you to just be able to freely speak. Now, does it draw seniors? Well, you better bet it does. And because of course they're the ones that are taking the most medication. Could you end up getting people in the Middle Ages? Of course. It's not it's not just seniors that need to save money. It's all people, and there are ways. There's programs for everybody, whether they don't have insurance, maybe they have commercial insurance. We would take somebody in the pharmacy that was getting, say, Advair, and we could literally take their copay from $300 on their employer coverage and run it through a manufacturing coupon card because they have commercial insurance. They can do that. And they would end up getting it for zero. I mean, people loved us at the pharmacy. We didn't have just a normal pharmacy. We had a party in there every day because everybody, I mean, people would walk in the door and I'd be getting on the speaker and say, "Oh my God, trouble just walked in." It's because it just draws a, a different environment when you're being so successful with helping people save money like that. Ooh, I want to know who that person is that did patient assistance coordinator at Bear for 11 years. I mean, sometimes it's about contacts. You might know something I don't know, and I would like to know you, whoever you are. Um, but anyways, so I designed this presentation and started giving it, and something just kept bugging me all summer long. It's like, you're one person, you can only reach so many people. I was hearing feedback from some of the people that had come to the presentation and saying about how much money they were saving and things. And it's like, you know, I have a downline of pharmacists. So, I have one in Texas, one in Michigan, one in Ohio, one in Pennsylvania, one in Maryland, and one in South Carolina. And even if all of us are given this presentation and trying to help seniors, we can only reach a small amount of people. So it just kept bugging me until finally I had a conversation with somebody. And it's like, I think I'm going to have to offer this presentation to everybody. We need to get this out like a wave. Everybody needs to know um, how to help seniors, because that's at the end of the day, who's with seniors? Agents, Medicare agents are with seniors. That's where we can help the most. So, um, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to try go to, and that's what kept me busy all summers. I'm trying to juggle appointments on top of, okay, how do I bring this out? I'm not the techie person. So of course I had to have it graphically done because it needs to be pretty. And, I'm talking to people in other countries. It's a mess. Then I realized it's like, well, I can't just offer the presentation without giving videos because people might not know how to save, right? People might not know the avenues, and people need to know more. Well, then I had to get out of my comfort zone and start making videos, which I hate doing. But I had to. And then it just dawned on me, it's like there's so much more that people need to know. And hence, that's where the university came from. So, with the university, it gives me, and it's not so much what's in the university right now during AEP, it's what's happening on the Facebook group. That's where all the stuff's happening. And you don't get access to the Facebook group unless you are a member of the university. Not even if somebody just buys the presentation, um, they have to be part of the university in order to get access, because I won't let anybody else in. What's on that Facebook group is a lot. Of course, when somebody joins the university, I automatically email them a folder with all of the patient assistance files that I have collected to date that are for the popular drugs. I have a lot of the obscure drugs. But the popular ones, I get them out there so that you can look through your file. If you're say, well, I need Trintellix. Does Trintellix have patient assistance? Yes, it does. Let me go find it. And then you email it off to your client. You don't even have to be in person. Email it to the client. Say, hey, print this off, take it to your doctor. They'll be able to help you fill it out and try to apply. So there's different ways of savings, and that's why it's there's a lot to cover. So there's discount cards, there's online pharmacies, there's patient assistance programs, there's grants. Then there's what the controversial elephant in the room is. I support using a certified Canadian pharmacy. Some people disagree. Hey, we're going to agree to disagree. Yeah, I usually use Needy Meds. Yes, Needy Meds is a lot of where I go into a lot to look for different things. The problem with needy meds is it's kind of hard to maneuver and hard to figure out where exactly you need to go to find what you need. And then I'm looking for a lot of different things. So I'm looking for what is the criteria, where's the application, and a lot of different content. So, but it is definitely one of the things that I use a lot. Um, Discount cards, everybody has heard of GoodRx, but everybody needs to write down the name Single Care. So it's singlecare.com. It's just like GoodRx. A lot of times you can find better savings for something like estradiol cream. Oh, you better believe I'm going to Single Care, because it's, at least in my area, it beats GoodRx. And of course, we have a lot of women. I get asked all the time. It's like estradiol cream. Oh, I know where to get that, because probability it's a tier 3 or 4 on your plan. So, there's a lot of ways to do the savings, and it's going to get more and more and more important. Let me step back from the savings part and let me give you a little bit of talk on the structure of pharmacy and pharmaceuticals, because I think it's important, because I think as agents, we all need a crystal clear understanding of where these drug plans are going, because we're seeing it already this year. So with the pharmaceutical world, it starts from the manufacturer. It has wholesalers. There's 3 wholesalers that's large in the country. You have McKesson, you have AmerisourceBergen, and you have Cardinal Health. Those are the wholesalers. The vast majority of all drugs go through there. Then you have the pharmacy, right? And then on this other side, so that's the movement of drugs. Then on this side, you have the movement of money, the movement of decisions, the formulary creation. And what you have is the pharmacy benefit managers. So, of course, United Healthcare typically uses OptumRx. Cigna, I think, is using OptumRx. Express Scripts, of course, we see Express Scripts, even though I don't think we can write for them. Some of the plans will use Express Scripts. Of course, we know Caremark. So Aetna is Caremark, right? So that's their pharmacy benefit managers. And then you have the carriers. Aetna is different than Caremark. Humana is going to be different than CenterWell. You've got United Healthcare is different from OptumRx. You have all these carriers. The carriers are separate from these PBMs. So you have to understand the PBM center of where decisions are made. The pharmacy benefit managers are the ones that manage our prescription drug plans. They're the ones that set the formularies. They're the ones that set the tier levels. They're the ones that set up the roadblocks that I call prior authorizations or step therapies. So those are the people that end up making all those decisions. Well, of course, when this Inflation Reduction Act just happened, they were so focused on trying to do something to help, they didn't look at the ripple effect of what it's going to cause. Yes, part of it we can say, oh, it's going to be awesome to be able to max out at $2,000. Well, what did that actually tell them? I heard the president say, and I'm not digging him by any stretch, but I heard him say we're going to drive down the prices of drugs. Well, that's not accurate, because with what that bill does, it did not tell the manufacturer that they had to lower their price, right? They can't do that. We live in the United States. It's capitalism. They can't tell, Eliquis or the makers of Eliquis or Xarelto or Trintellix or Januvia or all these expensive drugs to lower their price. They can't do it. What they did is they told the pharmacy benefit managers that they're about to lose profit because they're going to have to cap the out of pocket for seniors, people on Medicare, um, at $2,000. Well, of course, the pharmacy benefit managers are the greediest of all entities in this whole pharmaceutical world. There is no way, I'm here to tell you, there is no way in hell those PBMs are going to lose profit share. They're not going to do it. Somebody's going to pay, but I guarantee it's not going to be them. So there's three ways they can actually get that money. They can go to the manufacturers and ask them for more rebate because they are getting rebates where somebody, what we see is, say Eliquis is $600, for example. When we look into our software, we'll see the cost of a month, $600. Well, that's what's being tallied for the actual determining if you're going through your stages. Well, the manufacturers, not the manufacturer, the PBM is getting a rebate on that drug. So I assure you, they're not spending $600. They're spending something less than that. It's probably a relative, and it's secret. That's not divulged at all. That's completely hidden in secrecy. Probability is they're getting a good 30, 40, maybe 50% back that is not being passed on. So, of course, it's an inflated price that we're actually seeing when we look into our software and see the estimated cost of the drug. That's not really factual. But it is what we have to use. That's what's going to make people go through their phases. So, of course, they get rebates. So they could go to the manufacturer and say, "Okay, can we get some more money, please?" And the manufacturer what are they going to do? They're going to look at them and say, "We already give you money. Why do we want to give you more money?" So no. They could go squeeze the pharmacies more. Well, they're killing the pharmacies right now. The PBMs actually, for every brand drug that is filled in this country by any pharmacy, retail, hospital, whatever, they are losing money. The pharmacy is losing money by dispensing a brand drug. Well, why is that? Well, because there's not enough profit margin in there for everybody. So it goes from the manufacturer, they set their price, they sell it to the wholesaler. Now they'll give them a little bit of a buying discount. That's hidden as well. We don't know how much that is. Then it goes down to the pharmacy. Well, it's still a big price, right? By the time it gets to, and there's very little room for profit in that. Um, so pharmacies are losing money on almost every brand name drug. So what we're going to see in the future is something that's going to happen with a lot of independents. But that's why you see pharmacies scattered. They're losing money. They have to do more generics in order to make up for what they're losing by dispensing brands. And their ballots are getting tighter. So there's no money left from the pharmacy. So in hence, you're going to have to get it from the client. So what's going to happen there?
Hold on a second, Norma. Hold that thought. What you just said, and I don't know if I hope everybody's paying attention to this because this is gold. Blows my mind. You're telling me a drug like Eliquis is $600, or a drug like Mounjaro that's all the rage right now, $1,100. The pharmacist is actually losing money on medications that like that. That is
The
insane.
pharmacy.
Yeah,
The
they're making money
pharmacy
on
is
the
losing
$2
money.
drug,
Huh? Yeah. Yes.
but they're making money on the $2 drug.
Yes. Yes. They make a good profit, and it all comes from competition. Because if we need Eliquis, and I keep picking on Eliquis because we talk about it all the time, but Eliquis is made by one manufacturer. There's no competition with that, right? There's no generic available, at least not here. So they get to set the price. They set the price high because they can, right? Then it passes on to the wholesaler. Well, they may take off, say, 5%, but there's not a big spread of what they're going to discount it to sell to the wholesaler. So the wholesaler gets it for 5% less. Then they have to sell the product to the pharmacy. Well, maybe they'll only discount it 2% because then they get to keep the 3%, right? So there's very little money in the whole schematic for brand name drugs. So if you have a pharmacy that, say, they're paying $500 for a month's supply of Eliquis, then you have the PBM. So maybe the Eliquis, so they're paying it's so complicated. That's why I had to make a university. So
I get
maybe
I need a flow chart on this, Norma. I need a
well,
flow
and I
chart,
have
please.
one. I actually have one on the schematic of how drugs move. And I will be doing more trainings on these details because it is it's that picture that's what's affecting our drug plans today and what's going to affect them here in the next 2 years. So it's all relative. I know it can get tedious. So of course, if a pharmacy spends $500 on a bottle, say a bottle of Eliquis, and the pharmacy manager, maybe they had negotiated, and maybe they're going to pay him $550, right? Because the pharmacy has to make money. They spent 500, they need to make at least 50 bucks on it. So of course the PBM makes their arrangement, their negotiations, say, okay, well, we'll pay you 550. That's all said and done, but they take back, it's called clawbacks. And that doesn't that sound horrible? It's called clawbacks because literally the PBMs will say, okay, we'll give you that 550, but there's charges, right? So there's fees. They're called DIR fees. So of course they're going to charge these fees. So maybe they don't give them the 550. Maybe they only end up giving them, say, $530, right, from the get-go. So now it's $20 less than what they originally had said they were going to do. So now they're making less money. Well, 4 to 6 months later, that PBM, now this is after this pharmacy has sold this drug, it's all gone now. They made 30 bucks. 4 to 6 months later, the PBM will come back and get more clawback on that particular sale right there. And it's a large percentage. I have seen it in on paper. And I'm not supposed to have it, but I actually have care marks. I've seen it. I have it. I can't show it, but I have their percentage of their DIR fees. So of course, 4 to 6 months later, the pharmacy's already spent the $30 they've made, right? But now they're going to come back and say, "Oh, you remember that bill of that Eliquis? You owe us 40 bucks." Well, they cut them from 550 to 530. They only made 30 bucks. Now they got to give them 40. And it's all disguised as DIR fees, right? Because DIR fees could be anything, right? So now they just lost $10 for dispensing that med. I mean, it happens every single day. That's the
So then
reason
how
for
does the pharmacy recoup that, gain that? Because at the end of the day, pharmacies do make money or they'd be out of business.
right how they're doing that is because they have to make up for it with doing generics. There is far more profit. Now, there's far more profit. It's less of a percentage because you're dealing with lower cost, right? But it's far more profit collective wise in their whole scheme, their whole business. They can make money on generics, even though they're going to lose money on the brands. So, of course, they're doing other
So
things.
that's it. And I don't mean to interrupt, but that's really interesting because nobody in their rightful mind think a pharmacy actually wants to fill a generic. I feel like when I'm like, well, is there generic for this? I feel like I'm downgrading the pharmacy, like, right? Like they're going to lose money because I want a generic. And you're sitting here telling me it's just the opposite. They want to fill it as a generic. They want you to have that generic because they make more money.
They'll be able to, even though the cost of the drug is less, that's where they're going to make the bulk of their money. And that's why you saw pharmacies jump on top of doing COVID shots. Guys, the money they're making from doing this, because they're getting that money from the government. That money's solid money, right? They're not having to negotiate all this stuff like they do with PBMs. PBMs are not even involved in that. Oh yeah, they jumped on the COVID shots because they're jumped on the COVID testing. I mean, look how fast you had all these big retailers. Yeah, they can say yes, they have heart. The staff has heart. The pharmacies are just trying to make money. And they saw a perfect way to make money, and that's how it's helping them. It does give them a lot more money to bring on board. So the PBM, of course, is really the bully in the whole system. I don't have favorable opinions of PBMs just because I know that how much they're making. Keep in mind, I spent 20 years with CVS, right? I've told you this. The CEO of Caremark is making, and I was told this by one of my managers, they are making $16,000 a minute. A minute. And it's like, okay, but you can't, grandma over here can't afford her Eliquis, and you're making $16,000 a minute for your income? I mean, come on, really? Who needs that kind of money? But that's what we've got, and that's what we have to deal with. So we have to outsmart them, is really what we have to do. And we have to be able to assist seniors on being able to get their money or their drugs. It's going to get worse by far. And what's going to happen is, like I said, this Inflation Reduction Act told these PBMs that their profit's going to have to be squeezed. Well, no. So what do we have? What have we seen so far? And it's like I'm having heart attacks every single day. It was in drug plans yesterday because I have some people that I need to replace their drug plan. And I'm looking at the different options. And what are we seeing? Well, one, we're seeing higher premiums, right? For most part, the premiums are going up. Some of them went up a little bit less, but for the most part, they went up. But what are you seeing in tier 3 drugs? Before, like last year and the year before, I would fuss at Humana because they had a standalone prescription drug plan, and I didn't like the 17%. And I've had heated not arguments, but heated discussions with my Humana broker executive. And it's like, look, no, you don't need to have a percentage in a tier 3. That's where all their brand drugs are going to be. And then he wanted to say, well, but what if somebody's on a lower costing generic? The 17% is a lower number than what their copay will be. It's like, yeah, but you're missing my point. That's the tier brand drugs are going to go on. And it's 17% of a big number. Do the math. 17% of $600 is still a lot of money, right? So they were the ones I didn't want to put anybody on previously because they had a percentage in that. What have you got now? Look at these drug plans. WellCare, thank God, and I don't even like WellCare. You know, I won't do their MAPDs, but I'll do their drug plans, and I'm beginning to like them even more, only because they kept the set copay. Everybody else, almost not everybody, but most of the other ones, look at your tier 2 or tier 3 copay. It's a percentage. That is horrible. Horrible. And I've gotten on Medicare Mentors, and it's like, okay, if in order to kind of get people talking about it, sometimes you just have to put it out there, and you know, it'll upset some people, it'll get conversation, it may be negative or positive. At this point, I don't care. I'm trying to be as loud as possible. That SilverScript Smart RX plan that we all liked because it was very low cost and it was decent up until 2023, that they took away from us, right? The one that's non-commissionable, you know, starting in August. They're not raising red flags to tell anybody, hey, by the way, we made tier 3 copays 25%. It's in the donut hole from day one. I know I'm screaming in my computer. It's 25%. I was at a client's house.
I love the passion, Norma. I love the passion. This is how most Medicare agents are, that we sit around talking. People look at us like we have 3 heads. You're the passion with the pharmaceutical side. And if nothing else, the watcher should just see your passion for this and understand you are trying to help. You're trying to do a service.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fantastic to see your passion over this.
Well, it's like, because what I'm imagining, and I did a sales presentation with Aetna the other day because I had already agreed to it, and even though I don't blame Aetna, they're still in kind of, you know, they still are connected to Caremark because CVS owns Caremark and Aetna, so it's somewhat their fault, but it's not. So I don't necessarily blame Aetna. I just don't like Aetna right this second because Aetna's connected to Caremark, and they're the ones that are doing this. So you end up, I was at a client's house and they had their ANOC, right, from SilverScript. They're on that SilverScript plan. And I'm flipping through it. and looking at the differences between 2022 and 2023, and I almost died at their house when I saw that. It's like 25%. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? I mean, if you do the math, 25% of a $700, I got to do, because it's like $700 times 25%. How many drugs do we see is $700 a month, right? A lot. A lot of all the brand drugs are 700 plus. $175 copay. And that is after they pay that stupid $505 deductible. Now, that should be criminal. That should be criminal. I told my broker manager, it's like Caremark is lucky that I am not wealthy. Because if I was wealthy, I would spend whatever money it took to make sure I broadcasted that whole thing across the entire United States. Because every single senior, what they did is they barely raised their premium. So somebody's going to say, "Oh, I'm just going to stay on this plan. It's doing me good. It's cost very little. Now it was $650. Now it's $740. It's affordable. Oh, I like this plan." And they're never going to notice it says 25%. So of course, as agents, we need to be telling our people. I have probably a good 40 people on that plan. I have contacted every one of them through email. I sent them all blast email. It's like, we have an issue. You've got to come off that plan. And I mean, I've had discussions with them, and it's like, even if they're on generic meds today, these are seniors. There's a high risk that somebody's going to end up on a brand name drug during the course of the year. There just is. If they end up on that drug, say in February or March, and they have those kind of copays, and you as their agent didn't come to tell them, "Hey, did you see that your copay is going to go up to 25%? They are going to be mad as hell. And they should be. If you do not at least tell them, "Do you see the 25%? Let's do some examples. Let's break out the calculator. Let's see what the drug would be. So let's see how much Eliquis would be if you were on the Silver Script plan." So that's Silver Script, right? That's the reason we've got to get people off this plan, or at least we need to be saying it loud and clear. It's like, I'm telling you, if you stay on that plan and you get stuck with a tier 3 drug, it's on you. Don't be mad at me. I'm telling you to come off it. But look at the rest of the drugs. You see all percentages. I mean, there's 17%, there's 25%. I haven't seen 25% by anybody else. I've seen 20%. They're all going to tier 3. So what's going to happen is they're going to end up raising premiums, and then they're going to end up making more people hit that $2,000 threshold. That's exactly how they're going to get their money back from capping. So where maybe only 1 million people hit that $2,000 or went over that cap, now they're going to make 3 million people hit it. So more people are going to have to hit it.
So for the ones that are hitting it or well over it, it's going to benefit them. But for the ones that generally aren't close at all, you're going to kill them.
Yep.
So, wow.
That's exactly how they're going to get their money back.
That was worth the price of admission right there for all of us to know how they're going to do that. Wow.
And I mean, it's not like they're saying it's just based on my knowledge of just the whole 20 years in pharmacy. And I do read a lot of other publications and stuff, and I'm connected. I mean, I'm connected to various angles with many, many, many pharmacists as well as independents. I even have a meeting, on the 9th of November with one of my dear friends. He's a pharmacist in Ohio. He owns an independent pharmacy. The man used to work for Express Scripts, so he was one of their managers. Very, very, very knowledgeable man. I'm trying to help guide him and kind of give him a soundboard of how he can transition his independent pharmacy to survive because of everything that's happening. And there's even more stuff happening in the pharmacy world that a lot of our independents are not going to be able to survive. They have some stuff coming in 2024 that whole clawback thing I mentioned about the 4 to 6 months later is going to come up to day one. So, of course, where they were able to ride on a little bit of money for 4 to 6 months, now they're going to come and get it from day one. So they're going to lose money from day one. It's going to kill a lot of pharmacies. But it's what can we do? What can we do to help our clients? Well, there's a lot of things that we can do. We can be educated on how we can best guide them. I sat down with a couple, my last appointment yesterday. They're spending a fortune. They have supplements, and because of their health, I think they need to keep those supplements. He has lupus and she has some lung issues. And I told him, it's like, until you can't afford that supplement any longer, you really need to stay on that supplement. I said, but we have to look at your drug plan. They're spending a fortune on drugs, and they're all generic drugs. Every one of them was a generic. So, of course, I plug them both in. Because of the deductible and because of just the price of the drugs themselves, even using WellCare, which has a set copay and not a percentage, their drugs were still going to be a couple, well, it depends on which one, the husband or wife. The wife's was going to be over $3,000. The husband's was going to be well over $1,000. I mean, it was ridiculous how much you're going to spend. I literally took his list and I plugged him into single care. He would have spent about $200 a month if he used his insurance. He could have gotten and he could get all of those drugs. It was less than $59 per month for something. If he uses his plan, he's going to spend more than $200 a month. Why in the hell would he want to use his plan? He needs a plan. So, of course, right now his plan is in the $70 range. If we kept him on the same plan, that drug plan is $73 and some change. Well, the other WellCare is $11.40. Well, why don't we move him to the $11.40 plan? Because it has a set copay at that tier 3. We like that. He'll save money on his premium. And don't even use your plan unless you need it for a tier 3 or a brand drug. It would be a brand drug. All of his drugs were far cheaper just to use a discount card. So why would he want to spend $73 on a plan if he's not going to use it, or if it's going to cost him a ton of money? He wouldn't. So in his case, it was an odd case that every one of his drugs were able to come off. All of her drugs were better off on coupon cards instead. She was getting 3 meds from a local independent pharmacy. She has some psych meds, and apparently they must get a grant because she's paying nothing for 3 meds. Those were her expensive ones, even though they were all generic. So, I mean, there's just different avenues. And when I look at plans, I try to tell agents in the university, if you're working on somebody's drugs and you're keying them in, now, if this is kind of complicated without you seeing it on paper, I understand that. It's easier to see on paper. But say, for example, you have somebody that's on an injectable insulin and on Eliquis and maybe Trintella, or say Farxiga, right? So you could end up, what happens? Well, if they're on insulin, that insulin going into 2023 is going to be on the insulin savings program, right? So it's going to be capped at that $35. As long as it's on their formulary, it's going to be capped at $35 all the way through all the stages. It's not going to change. That's a great thing. However, the cost of that med is still going to take all the rest of their drugs through those phases. Because of just the insulin alone, they are going to end up in the gap pretty quickly. Well, what's that going to do to their Eliquis and their Farxiga? It's going to make them expensive really quickly, right? So why not find a different path for Eliquis and Farxiga? That way you don't have to worry about them going expensive. You can actually save money by just not using your plan. I mean, you can get brand name Eliquis from Maple Leaf Meds for a ridiculously cheap price. you can get the generic of that. And normally I would say, and I was saying this in my videos in the university, I said, well, since we don't have the generic, just stick with suggesting the brand. I have since been convinced otherwise. You can literally get a 90-day supply of Eliquis. I don't want to misquote it. It's a ridiculously low price. We're talking $150 for generic Eliquis. I mean, how crazy is that? Do you know?
Actually, Norma, I can tell you exactly, because when I was going through the training, I screenshotted it. So I'll pull up the shot and tell you exactly.
But I don't want to have to close all my screens in order to get it. But it's like, it drives me crazy. So with Eliquis, you have choices. Well, one, if another drug is going to drag it into the gap, maybe it's best to get it from somewhere else, right? Because then you don't want its price to go up. So you end up getting the Eliquis elsewhere. So you're going to get the Eliquis from Maple Leaf. Well, then it's up to them. Do they want to get brand or they want to get generic? Let them and their doctor decide. That's not our decision. It's up to them. They have the choices. Did you find it?
So 168 tabs of Eliquis was 180. And then 180 tabs of the generic was 186 on your screenshot in the university.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're talking a 90-day supply for less than $200. Right? And that's now the reason they say 168 is because they have package sizes. And of course, we go by 30, 60, 90. We're on a 30-day calendar. Canada is actually on a 28-day calendar, from what I understand. So it's 28, 56, 112, 168. That's a package size. Because I've asked them, it's like, well, if I have a doctor that sends a script in for 180 tablets for brand Eliquis, are you going to send the 180 or are you going to send the 168? And she said, well, the 168, because that's how it's packaged. So it's coming in the manufacturing bottle. So it's something to consider. But still, it's a lot cheaper than using their plan, right? If the doctor says it's fine to get generic, get the lower. I mean, you can get get that cheaper. Now, what about Xarelto, right? Eliquis and Xarelto are in the same drug class. So if it's up to the doctor, there's different things medically we need to consider, kidney function and stuff like that. But if the doctor is totally cool, because I have a client that just went to his doctor a couple weeks ago. He's on Eliquis and he asked his doctor, he said, hey, if I can get it cheaper for Xarelto, can I switch to Xarelto? And the doctor said, sure, why not? I mean, you can get a 90-day supply of Xarelto for $84.05. Plus shipping. They're going to charge shipping. $84.05. Why the hell would you use your prescription drug plan? I mean, why? The only reason you would is, because that's the way you have to look at it, is if, for example, you have somebody that is on Trulicity. Trulicity is not insulin, right? Even though it's an injectable, even though it's for diabetes, it's not insulin. It's not going to be on the insulin savings program. That drug is going to get them into the gap, right? And eventually into catastrophic. You don't want to slow down a med and keep them in that gap longer than you have to. So you have to weigh it. Sometimes it is better to take other expensive drugs off and get it elsewhere. But if it's a difference between something else running them in, like Trulicity, running them into the gap, if you left the Eliquis and say Farxiga on their plan, yes, they're going to spend more money a little bit, but it's going to get that Trulicity out of that gap quicker. So there is a little bit of juggling of the math. So you don't want to slow something up. The reason I use like the insulin, like Tresiba or something, is because that's going to go into the gap, but your price is secure at $35. But so your goal is to either keep them out of the gap or get them through the gap. But how's the best way to do that?
I know for me, when I'm looking at drugs and comparing plans and, cards, discount cards and stuff, I'm always figuring it up on the annual cost, right? Because you go in and out of the donut hole possibly or not. And so at the end of the year, which plan is the lower number on your
Right.
meds? So you may have a few months where you're paying a lot more for this med, but at the end of the year, over a course of a year, that plan or that concept may still be the win if you figure it up on an annual basis instead of monthly basis. And I think there's a lot of agents that miss that. They just kind of look at the monthly and they're just looking for the lowest monthly deal. But at the end of the day, that might not be the cheapest plan for the year. So that's a great point.
Right. You have to look at how the math does. And you can and over time, especially if you're part of the university, you definitely kind of get used to hearing certain names, and those names of those drugs, you automatically, the second you hear it, the second you see it when you're, in front of a client or on the phone with a client, you're thinking, "Ooh, okay, that's a possibility. Maybe we can get that from there. Maybe we can get that from there." And it's going to come faster. So, and of course, after this AEP, when we roll into next year, because this all came about quickly, and I'm in the middle of AEP too, and extremely busy. There's a lot more to come in both the Facebook group and the university, and I'm going to structure it a lot easier, I think, because there is a lot to learn. There is a lot to understand, and it's not so much
So
about
you're
drugs.
telling everybody with the university referencing. Nobody has any idea what we're talking about. So what is this university, Norma?
So
Go-
how you actually can go into there is if you go to www.agentpharmacist.com. So www.agentpharmacist.com. Are you going to type that in, Rebecca? Because if you go there, it's actually the platform. Eric Fierro, I love him to death. He killed himself building that thing in a very short amount of time for me. But he, yeah, let's see, Oh, you misspelled it. That's why I didn't pull it up. Pharmacist is spelled wrong.
I'm better with numbers.
Agent spelled
Pharmacist.
P-H-A-R-M-A.
Hold on, spell pharmacist, Norma.
That's why I
Spell it.
shouldn't have
Spell
used that in my email, right? Because nobody knows how to spell it. It's hard. But anyways, if you go there,
Norma,
you
seriously,
have the
spell
choice.
pharmacist.
Yeah, it's PHARMACIST. So you're just missing the AC. Now you have me confused. It's like, no, that should work. That should work. I'll pull it up just to make sure it's.
Well, you can put a posted Medicare bill on it when we get out of here. Just a link to your deal. And then they'll have it for sure. Just in case I spelled it wrong again.
www. I gotta make sure it comes up. Agent. I hate these. My cell phone. It's so tiny. It's like we need either smaller fingers or bigger cell. AGENTPHARMACIST. Oops, I can't even pull it up. Oh, it still works. Thank goodness. What do you have in your room? That should work. I'll pull it up. Oh, it still works. Thank goodness. What do you have in your room? Yeah, that should be working. But anyways, it is agentpharmacist.com. You'll be able to pull up the actual platform. You can either get or you can get either one or you can get both. You can buy the presentation and it comes with 7 training videos on how to actually learn some of the savings, or you can just buy the university. At this time of year, I think it's a better bet to just I learned to spell, Rebecca. But I think it's right at this time of the year, it's more beneficial for you to just join the university, because that's going to give you access to the Facebook group, and that's where people come every day. People will DM me. They'll do it on the Facebook. I prefer it on the Facebook so everybody can see it, where they can ask me questions. So somebody will come at me with a different drug that maybe they can't find. I have all the patient assistance applications. I email those to you as well. I think for a $50 a month investment, I think don't you feel, Rebecca, are you getting enough value for your buck?
I think they're crazy if they don't buy both, honestly. I think they're absolutely crazy.
Well, I mean, I think it's I think with the amount of impact that we're having, and people are having a lot of very positive impact on their clients. People give me the feedback. I know that they post, on occasion. There are a lot of people in the university, and I think they're all right. I think everybody has been happy, and like I said, when we get to January, I'll start kind of developing everything and throwing it back into the university as well. But even going into next year, we've at the beginning of that Facebook page, after it got kicked off, we were doing a lot of exploring marketing ideas. And I know some of the people in the university are approaching doctors' offices and pharmacies, and they're having a lot of success because now you're learning more of the dialogue of what it takes to actually talk to them. They're going to know that you understand what's going on. And it definitely gives you a different level of expertise that they're not seeing with their students. So, I mean, we're going to see where it all ends up going. I would love to see at some point, with the complexity of what this is, I would love to see the university be a mandatory training, just because of, and I don't know if I'm young enough to actually make that happen, but because it would take time. But I would think it could very well be a very good CE course, which is a possibility. Or a mandatory training, just like AHIP is, that people can actually go in and learn more about the drugs and ways to help. I know a lot of people say they've been planning to, and I understand everybody's busy, and it's like it is what it is, But I know, as far as, we're still in the middle of AEP, so if you're struggling to understand a lot of the drug components, or you have questions and you don't have anywhere to go to, being part of that university and having access to that Facebook group gives you direct access to me. And I mean, there's times I've gone offline and have done Zoom calls with agents to try to look at one of their clients' drug plans to try to strategize on what would be the best, So, I mean, I do help out a lot. So it's just something to consider.
She does. She responds truly in all hours of the night, because I feel guilty sometimes messaging her because I know she's also in AAP. But I'm like, help.
No, I always hate it if I've had like a really long day and it's like, okay, I'm coming. I promise I'm coming. So I'll get in there. I mean, I'm running, very long days, and but I enjoy what I do. And if it means that I'm going to help your client through you to be able to afford their medication, it's worth a little bit of lack of sleep on my part. So, I mean, these seniors, when they start getting into these percentages in tier 3, this is going to be detrimental to a lot of people. So, one, definitely, if you're going to take anything from this, please go look at those drug plans and make sure that there's not a percentage in those tier 3s. If there is, make darn sure you understand the ramifications of that, and try to avoid that if you can at all. I would rather see somebody pay a little bit higher of a premium for a set copay in that tier 3 than the low amount and have a percentage. Over time, it's gonna benefit them.
Well, Norma, we're at the hour mark. I know everybody's busy. This is fantastic. I love how you got kind of into the political side a little bit of this and what it all means, because as agents, we don't understand that part, or don't know what's going on, or what their, what the real ramifications of that. We as people, I think, and not even agents, as people as a whole, we hear they're going to cap it at $2,000. Well, that sounds great.
Oh yeah.
But now you're saying, well, it's going to be great for this hand, but this hand over here is going to be god awful for. I mean, in some ways, little bit like Obamacare, right? For
Yeah.
Obamacare, it's the best. For some people, it's the best thing in the world, and for other people, it was the worst thing that ever came out. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to be enjoying the conversations in 2025 unless we know these workarounds. And so that, as agents, knowledge is power, guys. And Norma is giving us the knowledge to fight back for our clients on these drugs. You're absolutely crazy if you don't join her university and get the knowledge to help your clients. Norma, it was a pleasure. Do you have any final remarks?
No, the only thing that I think I would like to say, see if I can talk still, is that especially for those agents that do a lot of med sups. So what they're anticipating by 2025, it's going to force a lot of people that are on med sups with standalone drug plans. With the way those drug plans are going, it's going to shift the market to Medicare Advantage plans. So if you are an agent that the bulk of your business is supplements, you had better get to know my savings, because you're going to become, in order for you to keep doing supplements, if you like doing supplements, you'd better be able to figure out the drug part of being able to help them weather those really bad drug plans that are going to be standing by 2025. Otherwise, you better get used to doing Medicare Advantage plans, because a lot of people are going to move over.
Yep. So there you have it. Learn the drug. If you sell meth, you're gonna have no choice. And that's just the best part.
I'll post what their
How
website
much
again.
more push for the Medicare Advantage market. The government is really wanting to push, and they're finding all these ways. It's going great over here, but at the end of the day, it's going to drive people or force people to go over here, which is ultimately they make more money, right? So that's the idea. The government doesn't ever do anything to help us out. There's always a backhand side of this where somehow they finagled how to make more money.
Well,
And
and in this case, I think this was an accident, but it works in their favor. I don't think they went into it thinking. I think this was just a stupid accident on them moving too quick to make a decision to try to help, that they never did think through exactly what they're doing. But yeah, does it benefit Medicare? Yes. If you get more people off the Medicare rolls and onto Medicare Advantage, you bet that helps them. But there's still people that we can't afford to put them on an Advantage plan because they're health conditions. So we have to be ready. There's entire agencies that operate just med subs. I'm meeting with a lot of them because, trust me, they want to know, how do we help our clients so that they can stay on med subs and not have to roll to Advantage.
yeah,
Because some
absolutely.
agencies will go down too if people can't afford drug plans on top of their supplement. Yeah. Anyways, I'll post that again when we get off of here. I'll post the website.
Perfect. Thank you, Norma. Thank you for joining me on Saturday and letting me get to know you more. I appreciate it. I appreciate your insight. I know all of us agents do. And have a wonderful AEP, Miss Norma. And for all of you out there working it, you all as well, much luck, much success. I reap the rewards of the season. I love y'all. Have a happy Saturday.
Bye.